Welcome to HDPP Live on a Wednesday night to the UK and around the world with photos, memories and friends. This is HDPP Live. How are you this evening? Are you all well?
Hinckley District past and present for you, meeting friends old and new. Streaming Wednesdays and Saturdays too, with founder members Paul and Sue. The smiles that we bring are a heritage thing. HDPP, keeping history alive. HDPP, streaming HDPP live. Where local memories survive. HDPP, streaming HDPP live. Film clips, photos, memories and friends helps a dreary night go by. Wearing Hinckley's six of the best, stupendous quizzical high. The smiles that we bring are a heritage thing. HDPP, keeping history alive. HDPP, streaming HDPP live. Where local memories survive. HDPP, streaming HDPP live. Let's take you back in time. A community affair. We'll take you for a ride. Henson's Cab will take you there. We're making history. HDPP, chapter applauses. History aside, local causes. HDPP, streaming HDPP live. Betty is our queen bee. The sweetest honey candy. Dangerous dead here again. HDPP live. Hey, you know we keep it in HDPP.
Oh, good evening, and all next week. Hello, how are you this evening? Let's get the... I'm impressed by how many people are in the chat room already, remembering that it is a Monday night, and it's us, it's Hinckley District, past and present, live from the heart of good old Blythe. And, well, what a busy day I've had. It's been one of them days where everything's happened today, to be totally honest, and this is sort of my last job of the day, and it's really heartening to see how many people are here in the chat room and who have remembered tonight, because obviously last Monday it was bank holiday, and to be fair, I know people already liking already. Oh my word! As I say, it was bank holiday Monday last Monday, so obviously a lot of you were away, and I will grant you a night off. But tonight you've come back with a vengeance, and thank you very much indeed. You were absolutely brilliant. Here we are on a Monday night, and will be. And it was only the other day when I suddenly realised we need the new song recording, say streaming Monday and Monday too. Because that's what it sounds like, really. However, great. Anyway, as you can see, lots of people there will give you a call in just a... Oh, wait a minute. We're going to have one of them nights tonight. Remember to like the video, please. Thank you. It gets me all frit when she does that. Yes, like the video, and if you haven't already subscribed, remember to click the bell, because that's when you get the bell ding at you, and all the rest of it. So thank you very much in that. Today, before I go any further, I went down into Argentsmead. Oh yeah, they're still going to see Shakespeare in Hinckley, and you know, I think, Feels like a boxing ring here. Do you know? Look, I mean, it was great. It was absolutely superb. Congratulations to the River. It was the Red River Theatre who were in Argentsmead today. She's been wanting to play with that bell all day. However, so well done to Peter Michael Smith, Chelsea Jade Fawkes, Luke Stevenson, and Ella Hill. You did a great job. And I did say I would give you a mention in the stream tonight, as well as a mention on the radio this afternoon when I was on FOSS 107. Talking of which, I'm on FOSS 107 tomorrow afternoon from 2 through till 7 o'clock. Probably with not as many bells with on as that one, but however, so looking forward to that. So let's see who is indeed in the chat room this evening. And the first one through was Ian Walker with a big kiwi, and so rightly so. Kath Denny says, hello, Paul, Sue, everybody else. Dangerous Dan is here with a hello, you lot. Absolutely. Grandad's here again from down on the farm. It's our Steve, of course. Now then, Ian Walker said he's first through the door with an apple for the teacher. Meanwhile, John Fletcher, hey up me duckies. I say to you, mate, like I say, and Daniel Coburn said it was a good afternoon, Paul, he says, and good evening. Great show this afternoon. We had a few little bits behind the scene, to be totally honest, so I didn't do much in the line of doing much presenting, but I did it. Be better tomorrow. I've wrote in my diary, can do better. Also, good evening to Anne Hunt. She says, I've remembered, well done, because we thought we were going to have to send the crew down Leicester to Jan's place, because you know what Jan's like. But she remembered, she comes in, evening all. So well done, Jan. A good evening to Jeff Wallace and Anna in a very cold North Lincolnshire, blowing right up your toot there, I know. Well, there was a couple of times today when it was a bit on the chilly side, a bit parky. And good evening, I say good afternoon, good evening, because it's light. You see, I'm not used to it being light. Kay Norton's here. Nice to know that you're there. Mrs. Poldark's in as well. Which really did surprise us because I hadn't seen it of late. Albert Knowles is here. Hi, Albert. I hope you enjoyed the programme. Mary Blake's here as well. Listen, all the old crew's here again. Derek Price is here. My word. And David Blower. Lucky you posted, Paul. I'd forgotten. You see, we'll just get him into the habit of a Monday, and then he'll forget all about it again. I know. Now then, also, John Denny's here. He's remembered. Monday this week. Well done, John. Lynn Lowe is here. Well done. She said, I've just remembered too. You see, you've all got to get in the new mindset. We're here to chase away those Monday blues. You know, you've got Monday out the way now. Downhill into the weekend. That's exactly what I say. Yes. Ian Roberts, HDPP, is on way to live. Of course, we are indeed. Hello to all from Queen Bee watching tonight. And Kath said there was away the other week from an 80s weekender. Wow, there you go. Wonderful. Let's explore. Mr. Picker's here too on a Monday. Hey up, me old beauty. He says he's been busy. We've got a nosy coming up a little bit later on. And even Mr. Gary Betterley, even though he is over the channel, he's joined us. So he said, Easter holidays here. We've got the kids, but still can watch tonight. Hi, kids. Yes, I was at school with... I was with your granddad at school. We won't even go there. Okay, then. So, in tonight's programme, we've got all the regular features, including We're in Hinckley. We've also got a Haniogram. We're going to do all that. A couple of films for you as well. So I want you to settle back and enjoy the next sort of... It's going to be about an hour and a half, something like that, unless you nod off soon. But however, we'll try and keep you fully entertained. So first and foremost, as always, let me say thank you to sponsors of Hinckley District, past and present, for supporting us and helping us out when we need a bit of help, because it's always welcome. I tell you it is. Big news on the DVD. This is great. Selling well. If you haven't got your copy, now is the time to go get. Get yourself all briefed up ready for May the 20th, for when we commemorate the 100th birthday of this very memorial. The story behind the memorial is fantastic. And Greg Droge and myself have put together this 40-minute production. Seriously, folks, it is good. Even if I say so myself, get a copy. They're only £6. And ideally get this one and the roll call together because they complement each other. Absolutely brilliant. So please consider doing that. You're going to hear a lot more about this DVD. We're so proud of it. You can get your copy from Jasper's of Hinckley, and of course round at Hinckley and District Museum. They have stocks. Go get before they all go, because I don't want lots around, so I'm doing sort of small limited amounts. So there we go. And when you have watched this DVD, by the way, if you'd be kind enough to put a post up on the group telling us what you thought of it, because we'd like to know what people are thinking about when we do our productions. Do you find it informative? You will do this one, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. So there we go. Oh, look, Jan says even in the actual chat window, she says the DVD is brilliant. Great job done by Paul and Greg. Thank you very much, Jan. There it is. Look, I love it when they put these little things in. Get your copy, seriously. It's super. You'll want to watch it 2 or 3 times, because you watch it through the first time, think, oh, that was interesting, and a bit later think, I'm going to watch it again. It's got that sort of thing about it. You think, oh, what did he say there? I'm going to watch that bit again. So it's good. Anyway, lovely. Oh, and Jan says she also loves the music on it too. Yeah, I've got a little bit of music on it there too. Not too much, but just enough to make an intro, of course, to the film. Now, also, this is our next big thing. I'm really looking forward to this, our April social night. The fascinating miniature world of dolls' houses with HDPP member Lynn Lowe. I've been talking to Lynn today. She's getting ready to move house. And bring it to our social night on Wednesday night. Everybody's welcome. Free admission. We'll have a bit of a raffle. In fact, we could do with some more raffle prizes, actually. But if you would come along, even though it's dolls' houses and things in miniature, because it's not just about a doll's house. It's on about, let's say, the furniture and the fittings and stuff. I know. I hope she brings it. There's a lady in the bath, and the bubbles look fantastic, but it's so small. It's brilliant. Come along on this Wednesday night. Yes, 7:30. Come along and enjoy a night in miniature. Honestly, you will not be disappointed. You really, really won't. I promise. Looking forward to that. And remember, you will need tickets for the May social night. And we'll be telling you details about that. That's the secret world of Market Bosworth on the railway during World War II. I'm really looking forward to that one. Lots to get through, I tell you. And of course, we have our merchandise down there at Jasper's in our corner there. We've got badges, key rings, tea towels, posters, pictures, and caps, and brilliant stuff. Find it in Jasper's at the top of the escalator, you could say. It's good. Brilliant stuff, absolutely. And finally, after all these notices, don't forget the museum is now open from now till the end of October. Now, I want to remind you, it's open on Mondays too. So it's Saturdays and Mondays. We nipped in to see Philip this morning, who was getting his third cup of tea down his front. I told him not to dribble. And this is so when you're popping into town, particularly, it's always nice on a Monday, and nip into the museum. You can stop there and have a cup of tea on a Monday as well now. So remember, it's open on every Monday as well as Saturday till the end of October. Okie dokie, finally, yes. If you had nothing else better to do, you were listening to the radio this afternoon. Yours truly was on. But tomorrow I will improve my game. I need to up it terribly. But there you go. I'm on FOSS 107 tomorrow afternoon between 2 and 7, starting with a kick up the 80s and a few other bits and bobs. It's good. Right. That is, ladies and gentlemen, all the... that is what I call all of the notices. We can get down to the competitions and stuff now. Firstly, let's get down to our first thing of the night, which is, of course, the anagram. Now, this all started off when we were doing 2 broadcasts a week. On Saturday nights, we had 6 of the best. We've rested 6 of the best for the summer, so in the winter months we can have 6 of the best back, because you'll be forgotten the answers to the questions I'd been asking, so we can use them all again, so it's not a problem. So all through the summer months we have one question, which is the anagram, and then we have the other one, which is where in Hinckley. So with no other thing to say, and I've got to make sure I get this right because it always starts off wrong, here we go. The anagram is this. Right. Complex nowadays save. You can tell this is not one of Jeff Wallace's because it's probably too easy. Complex nowadays save. If you rearrange that, that will give you an old out of town drinking hole. It's quite easy. I can already hear Jeff Wallace saying, "Got it." Complex nowadays save. Rearrange that, and it's an old out of town drinking hole still there today. Not been up there for a long, long time. So just rearrange that. So the clue is an old out-of-town drinking hole. So I'll just leave it on the screen a bit longer for you. Complex nowadays save. There, easy. Rearrange that. You'll get it straight away. I'm sure you will. Okay. Right, now, hopefully David Blow has written that all down properly. Have you got all the letters there, missus? I hope you have. Good heavens. Right, okay. And from one thing to another, we now go on to our where in Hinckley. Now, this one is a bit of a... I don't think you'll get it, actually, but you're welcome to have a go. That's all I can say. Yeah, Jeff Wallace got it. I said he'd get it, didn't I? Too easy. Anyway, right. Now... where in Hinckley? I got this one quite by chance the other day, walking along, and I said, "Look at that!" And Mrs. G said, "Oh, that's a good where in Hinckley, isn't it?" So here we go, where in Hinckley. Now remember, don't put your answer in the chat room. No. Just quite simply think, ooh, where in Hinckley is that great big crack up the wall on a building that's not very old? That's all I'm going to say. Naughty boy. Look at that. Who'd have thought that in the short time that building has been standing, you can see it's a new build, to have a crack like that? But where in Hinckley is it? If you think you know, to keep it to yourself. We'll come back and we'll show you this again. We'll give you the answer by the end of the programme. Okay, good. I knew the anagram was going to be far too easy this evening already. In the chat room, John Denny's got it, Kath Denny's got it, Jeff Wallace has got it. Well, I know it was easy, but act quickly, because it wasn't till today, I think it was early on today or last night, when I got Jeff Wallace's latest batch of anagrams. So we'll be using them next week, so keep it to yourselves, folks. Enjoy while you can. I wonder if you can get the where in Hinckley. Good. Okay. Right, okay, well, it's time for me now. You'll be pleased. Now I've got all that business out the way. We're going to rerun a film which you've seen before, but it's well worth another run, actually, for this evening. And don't forget, we've also got a nose there. Steve, my word, he's flooding that there tinternet with loads of videos and updates and stuff. And we're going to have a nosy from him towards the end of the programme, as per usual. So, with no further ado, we're going to go over to... we're going to run this film. Oh, we're going to go and run this film. I'm giving her a nod. Mrs. G's trying to get my attention. Just a minute. Hang on, just a minute. I can't afford your...
Stop you waffling a minute.
Oh.
I would just like to say hello to Dave Oldham and Pete Grucock and, of course, Jeff Wallace and Anna Ellis.
Is that it?
Yes.
Oh, right. Can I continue now?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay. Who is that? I wonder what she was dancing up and down. I thought, I nearly said, you want to go to the loo? You want to go. You're jumping up and down. What was going on? Been hijacked. Well, there you go. I can't pay you for that appearance. Just so she knows. Because she banks all her appearances. So, oh my word, and the bell rings too. Why I'm sorting all that out, let's rerun this film. Let's go and back and look at Barwell then and now.
Forecourt of a tyre company.
Oh, it started halfway. Hang on just a minute. Just a minute. What's going on there? Why? Why would the film start halfway through is what I'm asking myself. Bear with me just a moment because I am going to just check that. It was probably because earlier on I was queuing. And when one is queuing, you never know what's going to happen. Just a minute. The film must be somewhat halfway along. Yes, it is. Right. Let's have Barwell, past and present.
Following the decline of the knitting industry, the boot and shoe trade emerged to transform the village into a thriving manufacturing area, lifting the inhabitants out of abject poverty. From the centre of the village, known as Top Town, we travel up Chiltern Road for about half a mile towards Leicester and start our journey at the Cedars. A 1960s postcard showing the Cedars on Chiltern Road, the former home of Barwell businessman George Ward, who also owned many footwear factories in the village. In 1946, George Ward gave the house and gardens as a gift to the people of Barwell to be used for the benefit of the community. In early 2000, the buildings and the land were sold by the council, with the proceeds going towards a brand new community facility nearer the centre of the village. Not unnaturally, it's called the George Ward Centre. In place of the Cedars today, we find Ward Close, a gated community of private housing. Joining me on our journey is Rosemary Coe, also a member of our heritage group.
Down towards Top Town from the Cedars, we find Redhall Drive. This was once the entrance to the Red Hall, a mansion house commanding spectacular views over the Leicestershire countryside towards Rugby. Across the road from Redhall Drive, we find Lyndhurst, the property that George Ward bought after he left the Cedars. Moving further down Chiltern Road, an area known at one time, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, as Robbers Row, being the residences of many of the local manufacturers. This now brings us to Hill Street, once a mixed development of private houses and the site of a large factory. This was originally owned by the Ney brothers, who spent some time in Welford Road Prison for non-payment of taxes. George Ward then purchased the factory and secured employment for the workforce. In the distance, we catch a glimpse of St Catherine's Church, Burbage.
But George Ward's footwear factory eventually turned over to knitwear, but was demolished in the 1990s. Knitters Close is now a private housing development, the name of the road being a tribute to the industry which once stood there. The next junction we come to is Queen Street. A private house on the corner is now a dentist's premises. On the opposite side of Queen Street we find the ivy-coloured house. Note the angle of the front door. This was once a grocer's, and if the ivy were to be cut away, remnants of the advertising sign might just be visible. On the opposite side of the street, a number of terrace houses line Chiltern Road, as can be seen in this picture. There, still today, on closer inspection on the wall of number 65, a relic of the Second World War can still be seen. This sign indicates that a stirrup pump was kept in the house for the purpose of dousing fire caused by incendiary bombs. Most of the houses were built as private homes and bear names together with the year of construction. The further from top town, the newer the buildings.
A popular form of entertainment was a night at the cinema, and Barwell had its own in this building nearly opposite King Street. The neighbouring village of Earl Shilton also had a cinema, both being owned by the Cooper family. Each cinema would show the same films, but in reverse order. During the interval, two cyclists would meet midway between the villages and exchange films. It remained until the mid-1960s, and when it closed, it became a furniture and bedding shop, and later, Roger Fawkes's domestic appliance shop. The cinema was demolished and two brand new houses were built. You can just see the outline of the old cinema on the wall of the adjoining house. The old cinema stood next to the former Moulds and Moore shoe factory. It was later bought by local businessman Harold Slim, who made waterproof clothing for retail and the military. When he redeveloped the whole building into apartments, he retained some of the original features, like the second-floor bay window.
Just before we head to Top Town, it's worth taking a look at the opposite side of the road. King Street itself is mainly industrial, with many former footwear factories, including Hodgkins and Powers, George Ward's, Harvey and Harvey, Blumell's and Amos Moore's, and now small industrial premises take their places. On the afternoon of the 29th of December 2012, a pall of smoke could be seen rising above Barwell. The old shoe factory of Blumell's, which was at the time being used by Ardent Marketing as a distribution centre for holiday brochures and commercial leaflets, was well and truly ablaze. These pictures show the last hours of the factory, which had to be completely demolished. During the heydays of the boot and shoe industry, small general shops flourished among the factories. On the corner of King Street are the offices of the local plumbing company, Bores of Barwell. In previous times it sold cycles and lent wireless sets. Later it became a model shop.
One building, though, stands out from the rest. It's the village's former primitive Methodist chapel, once a thriving place of worship. After standing empty for a number of years, it was eventually sold and converted into flats. Sometime later, the flats became derelict. The building suffered a serious fire in the late 1990s and was left to deteriorate. About 10 years later, it was redeveloped again and is now self-contained flats. Just off Shilton Road, we catch a glimpse of a former cottage industry, now renamed Chapel Mews. Just down from Chapel Mews, a row of terraced houses still retains some of the original clay relief decoration, a testament to the skill of the Victorian builders. On the opposite side of the road is East Green, the only one-way system in the village, where some of the oldest cottages are to be found. At the junction of East Green and Shilton Road stands a property formerly lived in by Mr. Lockley, a carpenter and joiner whose workshop adjoined the house. Next to this is a dwelling which would have been the barn and hayloft belonging to Mr. Lockley. Moving on down East Green to the cottages, the 1861 census tells us that the Botterill family occupied one of these dwellings.
Emerging onto Kirkby Road, formerly known as Brocky Road, is a large building, previously occupied by Bostock and Barsby, coach builders and funeral directors. In the pavement outside this garage there used to be a mould for putting metal rims on cartwheels. This was done by placing a strip of hot metal around the wooden frame whilst in the mould, and then doused with cold water to shrink the metal to fit, resulting in clouds of steam. The upstairs of this building on the corner with Stapleton Lane was the original Barwell office of the Earl Shilton Building Society, formed in 1857 and still remains a mutual society. The ground floor was occupied by Kellaway's, a general grocer and confectioners. The building is now sadly neglected. On the opposite corner is Bank Terrace, which used to be known as Mare's Gap. A block of modern apartments now stands on the site, which for many decades was occupied by Ron Moore and his family, who ran a shoe warehouse adjacent to his property, selling factory seconds. The walls were lined floor to ceiling with many a bargain. That's if you could find a matching pair.
We begin our tour of Top Town, the hub of the village, with a photograph of the old blacksmith shop. Following the First World War, a memorial to the fallen was erected in the centre of Top Town and unveiled on the 31st of December 1922. The memorial remained as the focal point of the village until November 1969, when it was moved stone by stone and re-erected at St Mary's Parish Church. The blacksmith shop became a public house, not surprisingly called the Blacksmith's Arms. Being in the centre of the village, the building would have witnessed many public gatherings and parades, from the coronation of George V on June 2nd, 1911, to the celebrations of 2012. These marked the London Olympics and the Diamond Jubilee of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Today's modern parades take the form of carnivals, which still bring the crowds out onto Top Town and the surrounding streets. Over the years, the amount of floats has reduced as a result of factory closures. Looking around Top Town, the street scene has changed little, and apart from the centre of the row, the buildings are still original, although businesses have changed over the years. The end building, originally Freer's shoe shop, shows the progress from Westminster Bank through to the merger with the National Provincial and finally becoming the National Westminster. It is now a Chinese takeaway. The shop behind the memorial was Mr and Mrs Godfrey's greengrocers, fruit and confectionery store. It's also been businesses varying from a cycle shop to a bakery and a cafe. The Earl Shildon Building Society has occupied the same position for decades. The clock was erected in 1953 to commemorate the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II.
Looking to the other side of Top Town, we can clearly see Ronmore's house and shoe warehouse at the top of Stapleton Lane. Crossing over Bank Terrace, a shop, originally a fish and chip shop, then became Holloway's garden and fishing tackle shop. The tall building was occupied by the British United Shoe Machinery Company, which was owned by Charles Benyon, who gave Bradgate Park to the people of Leicestershire. This company rented and serviced machinery to the local boot and shoe industry. Next door stands the fish and chip shop, a landmark on Top Town. This modern scene shows a none too attractive 1960s style co-op building with flats above. Behind the fish and chip shop stood an imposing building known as the Liberal Club, which possibly replaced an earlier one further down the High Street. The club hosted many functions and was very popular with dancers of all ages, from the free and easies for families to the Thursday night tanner hop for teenagers. A tanner was slang for 6 old pence. This was the price of admission, equivalent to 2.5 pence today. The club was demolished in the 1990s and replaced by Saffron Village, a residential care home and sheltered accommodation.
This modern view was taken from the top of the co-op building looking towards Chapel Street. Down at ground level, our first glimpse of Top's Wine Bar on the left, which was formerly Carnell's Drapery. This scene catches part of the procession of the Sunday school treats and shows the style of dress in the 1950s. This is the older shot of the Chapel Street village pump outside the blacksmith shop, which supplied residents with clean water. The Wesleyan Chapel is situated further along the street. The shops here were yet more co-op buildings. This is the site occupied for many years by Wright's Radio and Electrical Shop. On the opposite side of the road stood a row of cottages, now replaced by a modern development of shops and flats. The Wesleyan Chapel, seen in the earlier shot, was demolished and modern built church and rooms erected in its place.
The Constitutional Club was converted from a row of terraced houses with a modern extension and has hosted many top-class performers. Further down Chapel Street, we come to yet another public house, the Cross Keys. Nestling in its shadow were many rows of terraced houses, several of which contain a variety of small shops. These included a butcher's, bakery, blacksmiths and general stores. Further down Chapel Street and past Queen Street, the narrow road opens out and leads towards the Common. This area was once known as the Marl Place. This name comes from the type of soil which could be extracted. This shot of Queen Street shows the sharp incline towards Shilton Road. This street becomes extremely hazardous in wintry weather. In common with other streets in this once industrial village, small factories nestled cheek by jowl with terraced houses built to house the workers.
A late 1960s picture postcard which depicts what we now know as Top Town as Memorial Square. This modern day scene shows how little has changed in half a century. We are now heading down the High Street, which again has changed little save for cosmetic changes to some shop fronts. On the right hand side is Barwell and District Co-op Society. On the opposite side of the road is a draper shop called Shorelands. This was where teenage boys were fitted for their first pair of long trousers. A later shot of the co-op, now called Hinckley and Barwell Society. Yet another different branding. The 1980s saw it become Homemaker, selling a range of goods from fridges to mattresses. Barwell Cooperative Society started in 1871. In 1902, owing to the expansion of the businesses to the surrounding towns and villages, it was renamed Barwell and District Cooperative Society. The premises are now occupied by Gents Hairdressers, a cake design shop, Barwell Parish Council offices and 2 unoccupied units.
And the High Street as it is today. London House in the 1960s was Coley's Emporium, a hardware shop where if they didn't sell it, you didn't need it. Then it became Dave Lux Sports, an electrical wholesalers, and then Cheeky Charlie's, a tea room by day and Aldo's pizza parlour by night. Another view back up the High Street towards Top Town. Note the double curb on the left-hand side. Between LK Hare and the main co-op building is a newer building which replaced 2 cottages, 14 to 16 High Street, with a double shop front owned by Mrs. Freyson. Number 14 was a high-class confectioner's, while the adjacent premises was a music shop selling instruments and sheet music. In later years this extension was used by an optician. LK Hair has been occupied by a hairdressing business for some years. Prior to that it was Places, mainly selling baby wear. Next door, Liverpool House, was occupied for many years by the Kitson family, who were traditional gentlemen's barbers and tobacconists, established in 1891. Following the closure of this business, the shop became a general store, owned and run by Jim Geary, who eventually sold to new owners, carrying on the same trade.
Staniforth, a name synonymous with the High Street, has stood for decades and has changed little over the years. It was once a cycle shop and repair service and still sells cycle spares today. The adjacent shop has also been in existence for many years. Apart from selling greeting cards, it also provided a library service where books could be borrowed for a few pence. This large house on the corner of Stanley Street was Dr. Cook's surgery. Birches of Barwell, another name synonymous with the High Street, sold high-class furniture. Demolished in the late 1980s and was replaced by modern apartments. On the opposite corner of the barracks stood Lockley's grocer's shop, which was one of the first establishments to introduce self-service. The business was sold and survived as a grocer's shop for a few years before becoming a co-op chemist. On the opposite side of the High Street, two properties, originally called Gladstone Villa and Primrose Villa, later became shops owned by F.E. Co., one being a wool shop and the other being a ladies' outfitters. A hairdressing salon was above. Over the years, these properties became independent chemists. The co-op bought the business and continued to operate it before moving across the road into Lockley's shop. The shops were then split into two units, one becoming a cafe and the other eventually becoming a florist.
Specialise, obviously, and opticians. In earlier years it was J. Dawes and Sons, local plumbers, who occupied the premises, selling wallpaper and paint. In later years it was owned by Joanne Congdon, who made celebration cakes and ran courses in cake decoration. Further down the High Street is the village post office, which has been in the same position for decades. To the left of the post office is Fox Hair Design. The building was occupied by a bank for many years, later taken over by Birches of Barwell for storage. To the right of the post office is the gasworks. It was once a celebrated jewellers run by Mr. and Mrs. Bolesworth. Two further shops after the archway cater for the hungry residents of Barwell. The first is a Chinese takeaway. The second, once a laundrette and then a general store, is now an Indian takeaway. After a gated drive, which once led into a farmyard, stands what was once the farmhouse. Now a private dwelling, the large ground floor windows are the remnants of a cafeteria which once occupied a part of this large property. A nostalgic view of the High Street. Very little has changed.
This shot gives a tantalising view of the Queen's Head in its black and white form, which has now been restored to its former glory. The stone which was used by riders to mount their horses is clearly visible. In the early days, the directors of Earl Shilton Building Society held some of their board meetings in the Queen's Head. As can be seen in this early picture, the Queen's Head originally had a thatched roof. The picture shows a number of women, one of whom was most likely the landlady. This was common practice in licensed trade, as it was deemed that women were more able to deal with the unruly customers. Opposite the Queen's Head, a view of Barwell Church of England Academy. The headmaster used to live in the house on the left of the school.
The building adjacent to the Church Institute, now the Village Hall, consisted of a dwelling and a shop which sold pet food and animal feed, and has since been demolished to make way for Blackburn Road and the Fairacre estate. The name Fairacre was chosen in recognition of the annual fair, which came to celebrate the patronal festival of the village church dedicated to St Mary the Virgin. Very close to this building was an impoverished area known locally as the Dilly. Barwell residents were well served by 3 banks. The Midland Bank, situated at the bottom of the High Street, is now a private house. On the corner of the High Street and Church Lane stood the Manor House, occupied by the Powers family. Mr. Power was an influential member of the community, farmer, landowner and councillor. He was probably one of the first landowners to use steam-powered machinery on his land. In this image of the High Street, looking towards Top Town, the buildings on the right are the cowsheds belonging to the Manor House. After the demolition of the Manor House and adjacent cowsheds, a residential home for the elderly was erected on the site. It was named Harvey House in honour of a local family of boot and shoe manufacturers.
In this bygone shot of Church Lane can be seen a glimpse of the original rectory, an imposing building with tall chimneys, seen here from the rear. Another view shows the proximity of the rectory to the church. In front of the original rectory boundary wall stands a war memorial. The village church dedicated to St Mary stands in an elevated position and was erected in the 13th century. On the opposite side of the road to the residential home stands what was the Three Crowns, a former public house now converted to a private house. The row of houses known as Cooperative Terrace has changed little. Shops belonging to the Barwell and District Cooperative Society were plentiful in the village. Unlike the present day, it was possible to buy everything you needed from the cradle to the grave. For example, in this picture it shows that it was possible to buy your weekly groceries and purchase a new hat and some underwear from the shop next door. As can be seen from this picture, the buildings have not really changed except for the frontages. In the late 1980s, the grocery shop had become a general hardware store and the drapery had become a carpet shop. The rooms above were converted into a snooker hall. And as it is today, the ground floor is an Indian restaurant and takeaway. Carpet Cottage has given away to a motorcycle shop and Pocket Snooker Hall has been renamed Rafters.
Above these premises was the Co-op Hall, the venue for dances and wedding receptions. To the rear of the building, the Co-op owned their own abattoir, which provided locally sourced meat to be sold in the Co-op butchers' shops, and there was also a bakery. The Co-op also owned a fleet of lorries to transport the goods. On the opposite side of the High Street used to be a continual row of cottages, some now demolished. The shop in this photograph is now a general store come off licence. It has been a commercial premises as early as 1840, when it was known as the Swan and sold alcohol. At some point it was also a fish and chip shop. Beyond this shop is an intriguing set of buildings. A look through the archway reveals workshops. At one time they were used by an undertaker for the manufacture of coffins. The high archway accommodated the passage of a horse-drawn bier.
On the corner of Barwell Lane, which was the original main road to Hinckley, stood a shop owned by Fred Wright and was used as an electrical workshop to service his main shop in Chapel Street. The original building was converted into a dwelling. The farm buildings, which stood just inside Barwell Lane, have also been tastefully converted into homes. On the opposite corner, the ever-popular Red Lion, a pub since at least 1840, the beginning of Mill Street. This view from the opposite direction shows the original Red Lion building with Ivins Farm in the background. Although the cottages adjacent to the Red Lion have been replaced by more modern houses, the following 3 houses remain. One of them is now occupied by Silhouette's hair salon.
Mill Street takes its name from the windmill, which was situated in a field on the site which is now referred to as the Waterfall Estate. The windmill was demolished prior to the First World War. This view of Mill Street shows a row of cottages, which have since been demolished to make way for the site of Mill Street Motors. The cars nestling under the canopy occupy the area once dominated by petrol pumps. The gardens in the foreground are now the forecourt of a tyre company. The premises of Emily Blinds was previously occupied by a shoe manufacturing company. Although some of the cottages remain, the gardens have made way for parking spaces.
Looking farther down Mill Street on the left-hand side of the road is a shop now occupied by Armstrong Electrical Installations. Previously this shop was an off-licence and general store. This building was once the premises of photographer Mr. Tippler. Part of the site was used by a company which produced labels. Another row of cottages long ago. They were demolished to make way for Moatway Industrial Estate, named after an old moat site. This industrial estate now provides employment for many local people.
Barwell has a very rich history, of which this is a part. Should you be interested in learning more about the village, please contact Barwell Bits and Shilton Snips Heritage Group on 01455 846 483. We hope you have enjoyed reminiscing, and thank you for watching.
And there you have it. Absolutely lovely. We've shown it before, but oops, it's always worth showing again, these films. A little bit of Barwell or Barrel, as it were. Listen, it's good. It's good. Now then, into the chat room. We've been chatting away while the film was playing. Lots of different things being talked about. John Denny mentioning the fact, look at that, £1.66 for 4-star petrol at £1.66 a gallon. Remember those days? Happy days, I know. And Paul Glover saying, I remember when it was 50p a gallon. I remember playing Tig in your car. It's true. It's true. Anyway, yeah, people really enjoying that one, yes. And Kevin Beasley saying, I can remember getting 4 gallons for £1. Oh, we will not see their likes again, ladies and gentlemen, that's for sure. Anyway, right, how are you doing, first of all, with wearing Hinckley? Let me just get wearing Hinckley, because all I can tell you is it's a new build by today's standards, but it looks like it already needs some TLC. It's a new building. It's not been there. It's not been there barely 20 years, if that. And there's the big crack to prove it. But which building is it? It is in Hinckley. I suppose it is town centre, really. Absolutely. Not a million miles away from Little Jane tonight. And so if you know where Little Jane lives, that'll probably give you a clue. However, I'm trying to think of a clue I could give you, because I do admit this could be any wall, anywhere. I agree. But there's a subtle hint if you know a bit of the town and you know this building. But it is a new building standing right next to an old industrial building, let's say. And this particular picture was taken from the car park. It's got a large car park as well, in a prominent position. In Hinckley. I nearly said the road then. Nearly. But have a look and see what new buildings can you think have gone up in the last 20 years, right? So that's the first thing. What's gone up in the sort of the town centre-ish? We're on the peripherals of the actual town centre. Steph says, I think we might know. Keep it to yourself, Steph. You might be the clever one tonight to get it right. We will see after we've had a nosy with our Steve in a minute. But it's a new build. It's got a great big crack. And yet the building next to it has stood for parts of it have stood for 140 years, easy. So, listen, that's all you got to think about. Yes. Anyway, let's come back to another thing which I've got to tell you about also today, because I was mentioning how we was Sue and I were in Argentsmead earlier on, and we saw Shakespeare in Hinckley. Yeah, that's what we got. Bit of Shakespeare in Hinckley. And Mason Moore is with us this evening, and there was a part in the program. This is true. There was a part in the show or the production where William Shakespeare realises he's got to go to Market Bosworth to collect a horse, which is provisionally arranged at Hinckley Horse Fair. Okay. And after his OYE and YO and all that business, he comes over to a member of to the front row, the member of the audience here, right, yeah? Me, quite by chance, and he says, "Sir, dear sir, pray can you tell me the way to Market Bosworth?" I said, "Yep." I nearly said, "You want to go up the jitter?" Right? I head north out of town, past Hangman's Lane, said, and keep going. I said, and hang a left at Bull in the Oak. You can't miss it. And I spoke to the actor afterwards. And he says, "That was great." He said, because every time I get to that bit, he said, they look at you and say, he said, "Do you know the way to Market Bosworth?" And they will go, "Of course." So I not only told him where it were, I told him how to get there. And he loved it. And he said, "Thank you very much for that." It was great. It was absolutely great, that thing, and I hope that there's more productions like that in the town. I've heard that they're going to do one about Charlotte Brame, our novelist. That would be great to have that story portrayed there, in the street, as it were. There's also talk about doing one about Dr. Cheshire, and these are great. And I think, yes, it's another way of bringing our heritage and bringing it alive to people. And this morning in the media, it was great, because although it was a bit chilly, it was still, the sun was out, and it was pleasant but chilly. And it was great. You actually felt, yeah, I like this. This is good. So well done to everybody concerned there. Okay then, let's see how we're doing where in Hinckley. One more time before we move on to a noser. Right, where in Hinckley? Here it is again. It's the crack through time. Yes, the building hasn't been there barely 20 years and already got this. It's right next to a building that's probably 140 odd years old, and that's been there eons. But that hasn't got cracks like this one has. So, where do you think it is? Oh, it's so good, I know. Right, okay. Just before we move on, I must also say congratulate Maureen and Ray Harris. It's their wedding anniversary today. Happy anniversary. I do forget the number just off the top. About 50-something odd years, I think it was, if I remember right. Absolutely Well done, Maureen, Ray, and thank you for your support of Hinckley District, past and present. It's very much appreciated. So there we go. If anybody else wants to wish our Maureen and Ray, if you want to wish them happy anniversary, please do so in the chat box. Okay, now then. So, anagram seems to be well cracked. Yes, but ironically, the anagram seems to be well cracked, but the building's well cracked, but no one's got it. Not yet, so far. We know. 52 years married. Well done. Absolutely, really, really well done. Absolutely brilliant. Time for a noser. Yes, our man from the north. It's our Steve Picker, who is Mr. Nosy, and he gets his nose into all sorts of places. And I know a lot of you go and visit his YouTube site and go and see the videos before we screen them on here. It's just great, isn't it? We just love what Steve comes up with, and he's got some real good stuff lined up for us in the coming weeks, I know. However, we're going to have a nosy now, so sit back and enjoy another cup of tea as we have a nosy with Mr. Nosy. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mr. Nosy himself, Steve Picker.
Oh, friend, long-haired friend, long-haired friend. Anyway, that's enough being daft. Hello, hey up and hey diddling. My name is Steve, this is Delighted Dave, this is Rare Rob, and this is the Pissed Up Priest, aka the Walkabout Wazzock. Why is it the Pissed Up Priest? I cannot tell you that. That will remain a secret. Right, anyway, got an action-packed show. Hey up, it's a show again, Dave.
It's a show.
It's a show.
It's a show.
But yeah.
Mr. Grimsdale.
Hey.
Mr. Grimsdale.
All right, Pipkins, all right. Anyway, I've got something biting my neck. Anyway, we're in the glorious Derbyshire Peak District on the High Peak Trail. And in truth, we've already done the explore pretty much. I balls the first intro, but we've had an amazing morning, haven't we, so far. Anyway, let's get you over to the maps to show you exactly where we're doing it today, because it's been a good one. Anyway, there's bikes coming. I've got to get you off the trail. Let's do it. Alrighty then, so once again, courtesy of Google Earth, we can look at today's nosy from very high up above. And as you can see there, where the red dot always marks that spot, just to the southwest of Matlock there, as you can see, is the fantastic Cromford and High Peak Railway that we explored today at an area known as Minninglow. Now this is going to be a multi-parter, I think. This is part one. Maybe I should have started at Cromford, to be honest with you, but we started here because, do you know why? Dave has got a caravan near there, that's why, so he was in the vicinity. But yeah, great nosy this was today. And I'll tell you something else, I reckon this has got to be up there with my favourite noses, to be honest. In the last year and a half since I've been doing this, just over a year and a half, I think, I really thoroughly enjoyed this. There was so much interesting things to see. If you can hear snoring in the background, that is indeed Nosy Nev. Please shut up, Nev. Thank you very much. All right, please yourself. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this today. And there were bits and bobs that I haven't added to this video because it just wouldn't fit on, to be honest. It would have been too long. Anyway, before I bore you all to death and you'll fall asleep, let's go for a good old nosy. Come on. Right, so as you can see, we're walking on this impressive embankment here that's built with this limestone. I mean, just look at it. I've never seen anything like this in my life when it comes to railways. Now, this High Peak Railway, it was actually built They started building it in the 1820s, I think, so they were building this at the same time as the Stockton and Darlington Railway was being constructed, the famous George Stephenson Railway, of course. But you know, this is absolutely, you know, in the middle of nowhere. You know, you've got to get all these materials up here. Now, fortunately, of course, this part of Derbyshire, it's renowned for limestone workings, but in the distance over there, about a mile away, we've got another huge embankment to look at as well. And this curves all the way round here as well. It's absolutely fantastic. I've never seen anything like this. So let's get on with it. There's so much more to see. Come on. Right then, so courtesy of the Railway and Canal Historical Society, what you're looking at here is a magnificent photograph of a steam locomotive going across the top of that wonderful limestone built embankment that we've just been walking on, and you've just seen some of that amazing drone footage that Steve took for us today in the video. Now we were stood and we were walking around about 10 metres or 20 metres past the last wagon of this train, and as you can see in the distance to the right hand side, you can just make out where it starts curving away, as you've seen from that wonderful drone footage. But yeah, amazing photograph this. Right then, so we've got a nice little cut in here, not a very long one, but I wanted to show you because as you can see, I mean, just look at these sheer sides here, especially on this side. You know, this was all carved out with dynamite, you'd imagine, and pick and shovel. And, you know, we're talking about a railway now that was opened in 1831, this, one of the early ones. And, you know, this was being constructed when the Stockton and Darlington Railway was being used. Now, quite early on, I think they actually wanted to use steam locomotives on this, I think. But they didn't use steam locos till around about 1841, I think. Now, back then, of course, they were using steam locomotives when the Stockton and Darlington Railway opened. That was the first one, I think, to use them. So, you know, people they hadn't really come round to this idea of steam locomotives yet. It was all a new thing, weren't it? So this was, you know, when this started its life, it was a horse-drawn tramway. Now, along its 33-mile length, there are actually 9 inclined planes on here, 8 of which had stationary engines hauling the goods up the inclines, up the steep inclines. But I think one of them, I think it might have been the last one at Whaley Bridge, where the Peak Forest Canal is. I might be wrong here. I think that was worked by a horse gin, I think. But yeah, absolutely incredible. But you know, I love these details, I do. You know, when I walk these railways, I love looking at cuttings. But this here, you know, just to get it cut out how it is was a skill, you know, very dangerous job as well, very dangerous. Anyway, what I'm going to show you next is absolutely fascinating. I've not seen it yet. The other 3 are actually round the corner there looking at it, and I'm really looking forward to showing you. Come on, let's go and have a look at it. Right then, so what do you make of this? Ain't that one of the prettiest things you've ever seen in your life? This is an old steam crane, and what we've got here, of course, you've got the High Peak Railway, well, the Cromford and High Peak Railway on me right here. And what they're doing, we've got a sidings here. I'm going to show you in a minute. We've still got railway sleepers down here. I'm not sure if you can see them there, but we've got an old limestone works. So what they were doing, they were loading limestone blocks from here onto the railway. Now we think this were hand operated, don't we, Dave? Yeah, so we've got a handle here. I mean, you can't turn that no more, ain't that bloody strong? But this is a fascinating piece of old machinery, and the fact that it's still here in situ, it worked. Yes, and I'm going to show you in a minute. Are the rails here? In fact, yeah. So what it did, there was an actual track here. We've got the sleepers, and this actually moved up and down on rails. Amazing. Let's show you a closer look round it. But what's extraordinary, we think it was all hand operated. Because look at this. You've got a lever here, so someone would have been winding that, and you've got the gearing mechanisms in here, look, connected to the actual wheels. Now, of course, you know, just look like train wheels, don't they? And it all becomes clear around here as well, because you've still got a bit of the railway track down still. Look at that. Ain't that absolutely beautiful? And that side, look. Absolutely stunning. And as Dave's just pointed out, it's got a box on it here, look. And we think this was probably where you put some sort of weight, so you might have filled that with rocks to keep it balanced so it didn't tip over when it were loading train wagons. But as you can see, it's got numerous points on here where there's been handles. So we think everything was being wound, you know, so when it was lifting, doing its lifting operation, someone was actually, you know, winding handles to get it going. Absolutely fantastic piece of old kit. So lucky to have this still here. I mean, just look at it. It's absolutely beautiful, that is. Right, so I did mention there that this crane was steam powered. Now, I'm really not sure about that, to be honest with you. And if any of you know any different, please let me know in the comments, because I would like to know. But, you know, it was definitely being manually worked. Now, whether it was purely with handles, I really do not know. But as you can see from the photographs and the video footage, there are various points where there would have been handles. They were definitely moving it with a handle by the looks of it, up and down its own rail line, as you've seen in the video there. But great photos from our David again and all. Right then, so what we've got going on here, of course, behind the camera, we've got the crane. Now the crane, of course, was loading large limestone blocks from here onto the mainline railway. But we've actually got a standard gauge siding here. Can you just about see that? Now, what I think was happening, of course, you got trucks coming in here, and then if you turn the drone round, on the top here, you've got a little narrow gauge rail look. And I think what they were doing, they were bringing little carts through here, and this was a tipper. And they were tipping, I think, crushed limestone, crushed rocks from here onto that mainline siding that I've just been showing you. But Dave also wants to tell you something as well. Tell him about this little chain here, look.
Yeah, we've got a little chain here, and I think this would have been connected to the wagons to stop them actually falling over the edge.
Either that or Mr. T's chain round his neck.
Yeah. I'm beginning to think now it's Mr. T's chain is lost.
Could be, couldn't it? It's fascinating
Oh,
here, isn't it, Dave?
Unbelievable.
I tell you what,
Look at the view.
turn that drone round and show him that beautiful crane from above, Steve. Absolutely fantastic.
That's a highlight, isn't it?
Stunning. What we've still got left?
For it to be in situation.
Yeah. Gorgeous. Right, so then Dave ran off like an over-enthusiastic Springer Spaniel on the trail of pheasants, then started shouting, "I daren't tell you what I can see over this hill up here." And it was indeed this big hole that you're looking at, this old limestone works. Now, as you can see there, you've got a ramp that goes from the bottom of the quarry up to the top, where those trees are. Now, we're going to go in amongst those trees shortly in the video. Now, prior to making this video, I knew nothing about this quarry. We only knew about it because Dave ran off, like I said, like an enthusiastic Springer on the trail of pheasants. But we went in amongst those trees and found some very, very interesting workings there, and a very interesting building that I had my own theory as to what it was. And do you know what? I weren't far off. It ain't just Andy Jones that knows what he's banging on about on this channel, you know. And we did miss you today, mate, if you're watching. You were very, very much missed. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get in amongst those trees and show you what the dealio is. And then I'll show you a bit of a map to kind of prove my theory. Come on. Right then, so just over that hill there, in a little piece of woodland here, but just the other side of there, there's a limestone quarry. Now, we've just stumbled across something very interesting. So what you got these concrete stanchions here. Now, in the quarry, I'll have to get Steve with some drone footage in a bit instead of going over there again. But what's going on? They were pulling, in my opinion, wagons up the ramp in there. And this, for me, is a loading stage. Now, we didn't know this was here. There's a standard gauge railway cut in here. And for me, they were bringing trucks into this cutting, in between these stanchions, and they were pouring the mineral from the quarry into standard gauge railway trucks at this point. I tell you what, I can't cope with this anymore. Steve has just said, that's that Steve, not this Steve. I'm not talking about myself in, what's it? There's only a building down here apparently. So we've got to go and have a look, ain't we? And do you know what, Steve? Yeah. With this being a railway cutting, It might be a plate layers or how big is it?
Quite big. It's like a junction box.
Well, there's only one thing to do. Come on, let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. Come on. Right, so it's becoming very clear now. This here, where I'm standing, this is a track bed for the railway. Now, I've just been showing you back there, them concrete stanchions, and they're bringing the mineral away from the quarry along this track bed and out and joining back up, I imagine, with the High Peak Trail. Well, the Cromford and High Peak Railway. But it gets even more fascinating here because look what we've got. We've got a building, look. Now, we're not sure what it is yet. I mean, it might be an old plate layers up, but I didn't see this on the maps, Dave, so... Oh, 100%, 100%. We've got a pile of bricks. You still recording? Right, now, here's the thing. Here's the rub. Riddings, I think that says. Now, I don't know any history on there's a brickyard just down in this vicinity here. And this must have been the brickyard. Riddings, Ridings, so very, very interesting. Right. Right, so it gets even more interesting round here. So we know we had a quarry over there and I'm stood on the trap bed and we've got this building which I initially thought was a plate layers up, but I don't think it is a plate layers up now. I think just down here, there was a weigh bridge and they were weighing the goods on its way out before it joined the main line. Now this building, as we've just pointed out, if this had have been a plate layers up, you wouldn't have a great big window like that in it. You know, I think this was a little office, part of a weigh bridge. And if we look down here, look, if you point the camera down here, Dave, got a bit of an archway here. Now for me, there was some sort of mechanism coming out here. Now, do you know what? It may well have been some sort of little signal box where they could switch points actually. That's a good idea. You know, so there could have been a point switch here coming from beneath and a mechanism like a handle in there. Yeah, possibly.
Looks like there's another cutting over there.
Yeah, there's all sorts going on. It's a fantastic, amazing place this. But for me, it's either a weigh bridge office or it's a little signal box. But if we go inside it, piece of old clay pipe there, look. Yeah, I've seen that, yeah. This is nice. We think this is an old boot scraper with a load of wood lice on it. Oh, woodlouse friend. But yeah, if we're going here, to be honest, there's not really a lot to see. And we've got this old laughing in here, look. Ha ha ha. Yeah, this old laughing on the roof. It's in a bit of a derelict state, to be fair. But for me, Dave, this is indeed... In fact, if you just bring the camera in here, if you come round, I'll show you. So, we had that archway outside, and of course, so we had something going off here. Now, some people watching who still might think it's the plate layers up might say that there was a fireplace here. Doesn't make sense to me. You wouldn't have your fire. No, you wouldn't have your fireplace going out above and below your window. So for me, it's either a little signal box, this, point switching out here, or a weigh bridge, and I'd go for the latter. Right, on that bombshell, let's get on with it because God knows what else we're going to see now. Ooh, exploring friend. Right, so courtesy of the National Library of Scotland, we've got a map, an Ordnance Survey map dated 1923 when it was published. Now, the quarry that we've been looking at, as you can see there, was known as Royston Grange Quarries. Now, I looked on the late 1800 maps and it doesn't appear to be on there, so I think this was dug out in the very early 1900s. But this just about goes to show that my theory was pretty much bang on, apart from it ever being a standard gauge railway anyway, because it does say tramway, which could also mean that it was a narrow gauge railway, but I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. Now, as you can see, the tramway bends round to the right and it goes into that quarry where I showed you with the drone footage that Steve took. There was a ramp, so that tramway indeed does go down the ramp. Now, just before it turns on that 90-degree angle there, you can see what look like two buildings. Now, I think that they were an engine house that were pulling the actual wagons full of mineral up that ramp. I'm pretty certain about that, to be honest. Now, where it does indeed say tramway, at the end of Tramway, where the Y is, there's a building there, and then there's one to the south of it. Well, the one directly next to the Y of Tramway, I think, is that building that we actually looked around, that I still think is probably some sort of weighbridge office. I might be wrong, but for me, it's definitely not a platelayer's hut. That would have been on the main line railway, if anything. So that was to do with that quarry, and in my opinion, it is indeed an office for a weighbridge, or, like I said in the video, it could have been somewhere where they were switching points on the line. So not sure, but absolutely fascinating all the same. Right, so having just said all that, it begs the question, what are these concrete stanchions for then that you're looking at? Well, I still firmly believe that there was an engine house with a cable or rope pulling tramway wagons out of that quarry up that incline. Goes about saying there must have been. I mean, blokes weren't pushing then. They'd have been eating an awful lot of Weetabix, if the word, you know what I'm saying? Now, did the actual engine itself sit on top of these concrete blocks? Well, I've got another theory. Now, if you ever watched the video that me and Dave did with Adam as well, Dave's friend, at Oakthorpe Colliery in Leicestershire, I came across some concrete stanchions like this that used to carry, we think, a conveyor belt. So later on in the life of this quarry, did they install a conveyor belt? Interesting thought, isn't it? Answers on a postcard. Right then, what do we reckon to that then, chaps? Really good explore. Great explore. Do you know what? I reckon that's one of my favourites so far, you know.
It's one of the best we've done.
I think so. Really surprising. I mean, in that woodland as well that we went in. Well, we only went in there because you said, "Come look how deep this hole is here," and we kind of just, what are you laughing at? We kind of just walked round and seen bits of concrete and that, didn't we? But
and we think we've roughly worked it out, which is more important.
yeah, I mean, we might be wrong. I don't know, but whatever. More importantly, if anyone needs any air extensions or anything like that.
We've got David Coverdale with us.
We've got here I go again on my own.
Something like that. Yeah,
But yeah, really enjoyed that. And I tell you what, I hope you really enjoyed the drone footage from Steve as well. Absolutely fantastic. And we had to include drone footage with this nosy because, I mean, them embankments up there, I mean, there's something else, isn't there? How they've been built with that limestone, but absolutely amazing.
It's like something from Peru. It's like something the Incas would do.
It is. I think Dave said that in the early part of the video. It's just like something on the Inca Trail, Machu Picchu or something.
Yeah.
That would built incredible. But yeah, really enjoyed that. But if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe and share. And me, the Walkabout Wazzock, Delighted Dave and Tarzan, Rare Rob, will see you again. Oh,
friend.
Oh, friend, long-haired friend, long-haired friend. Anyway, on that's enough being daft. Anyway, some bloke trying to park up there who can't get in. It's all going off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, come on then, Rob Bon Jovi. Let's get on with it. Let's go and get something to eat. I'm starving. See you later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
And there he was, blooming well gone, and can you believe it? Brilliant, Steve. Well done, matey. He never lets us down. They're getting a real quadruple act at the moment, aren't they? Steve goes out doing these noses, and as I say, we'll bring you another noser next week, of course. But as everyone's all saying, a good one, they all want him to sign the autograph. What we ought to do, actually, Steve, one of our social nights, come down and we'll do a questions and answer session with Mr. Noser himself, because I know a lot of our members who haven't seen you in the flesh yet. You were kind enough to come down before. Would love to, an evening with Mr. Noser. I can see it now. We've got planned coming up soon. The dangerous tapes. That's coming up in June, by the way. More details about in the coming weeks. But wouldn't it be good to have a night with Steve? Because I think it'd really be good. The 2 chairs on the stage routine. And I'll do my Michael Parkinson bit and whatnot. You can ask the questions as well. I think that'd be quite a good little night. What do you think, folks? Put your answers in the chat room, please. Now, talking of the chat room, because there's been lots of chit chat going on during that film. Let's see how we're all doing with, well, firstly the anagram and then the wearing in Hinckley. So lots of you got the anagram pretty well straight away this evening. So you might as well, whoever wants to put the answer up first, because the question we were asking was this one. Yes, here we go. Yes. The anagram question, complex nowadays save. This was an easy one because, trust me, Jeff's back on the case next week and they'll all go really, really hard again. Yeah, okay. Yes, Jeff Wallace is straight in with it. Axe and compass will be. Yes, you're right, Jeff. Yes, yeah. Axe and compass, Wolvie, says Lynn Lowe. Jane Brown, axe and compass, Wolvie. Yes, I think we seem to be on the right lines there. I had to give Mrs. G a clue, and then she gave us that wry grin and said, oh. Anyway, so yes, we were at the axe and compass in Wolvie. Now then, well done, Dave B, as well. Now then, so from one thing like that to another, we were also playing Where in Hinckley. Anybody got an idea, before I do show you where in Hinckley this is, does anybody know where in Hinckley on this? We're going to, yes, Jan Kirby just agreed that she's also got the aniogram, but has anybody got the where in Hinckley? Where is that big crack in the wall? That's what we want to know. Jane Brown, the police station? No, it's not. No. Oh, no, but it's not far from you, Jane. I promise, it's not far from you. You could always throw a stone at it. Near the station? No, says Dave B. Not near the station. This is right. This is sort of in the town centre. Now then, let's see if anybody else is going to come in with the answer. I'll just leave it on the screen a little bit longer. The old courthouse, says Daniel Coburn. No, it's not the old courthouse. You're in the right vicinity. But no. It's not that either. So I suppose if Steph, Coventry Road Corner. No. I don't know what Coventry Road Corner she's on about. But no, it's not that. Now then, so I'm going to give the big reveal now. If you want the big, do you want the big reveal? We're at the North Warwickshire and Hinckley College malarkey, and there it is. That's the best way I can show you, really. That big crack running in the middle of that wall. It's the college. Yes. So I couldn't resist that because Sue and I were going down to the Atkins building the other day. That's the building that was about 140 odd years old. And I seen that crack. I thought, I'm going to have to do a Where in Hinckley on that one. So there you go. That's where we were. The Where in Hinckley is where we were. We was at the campus, the Northwest Leicestershire, whatever it's called, this thing. And Jane Brown, oh, well, I never. No, I know. Good grief, that's not very good, is it? It's not. When you think the building's only been there barely 20 years, give and take, and you got a big crack like that. Well, and Steph said, wow, got it wrong. Steph, at least you've honest. It doesn't matter, but that's it. Next time you go round the back of the college, have a look. You might be able to put your fingers in the wall of that. Absolutely, yes. And Daniel Coburn saying, blimey, I thought that, but never thought it would be in that condition already. And Ian Walker said, got me stumped. Well, there you go. So there's things that you learn. And just by being here on Hinckley District Past and Present. So, Anyway, so well done. And Jan said, I nearly said the Crescent. Now, I could understand why you would nearly say the Crescent because of the same style of bricks, in the fitting. So I would understand that, Jan, to be totally fair. Well, my word. Lynn Lowe said, oh, to be pulled down soon then. Oh, don't start. Don't start. Oh, now we're down to names. I'm not doing names. I better not get in trouble. Well, that's a Monday night. Have we chased away your Monday blues? We hope we have. And I hope that next Monday you'll join us when we'll do it all over again. As we say in pantomime, we'll have to do it again then, shan't we? Daniel Coburn, cracking wearing Hinckley tonight. Ooh. And if you've got nothing else better to do tomorrow afternoon, I shall be on FOSS 107 for the last time this week doing the afternoon show. If you can tune in for a little while, because if there's nothing else doing, you might as well. Saves me talking to myself, basically. And I look forward to your company again, once again, next Monday night here on Hinckley District, past and present. Remember, to keep it live, to keep it HDPP. I'll see you soon. Take care. Good night. Oh, hello. I thought you'd all gone. My word. Welcome back. This is the part of the programme we never talk about in the mainstream because a lot of people by this time have turned off. Well, they probably turned off half an hour ago for all I know. And they don't hang around for the end. They think, well, yeah, that's it. But you know better than me that this is where we really do chase away. Oh, we really do chase away. I caught my bell. This is where we really do chase away the blues with a few dad jokes just to send you to bed with a silly grin on your face, Ken. Absolutely, yes. Okay then, so let's see what we've got. Let's see what we've got in here tonight because it could be good. It might be good. Do you know what the Pope's favourite scent is? Pope puree. Pope puree. Hey. Well, I think to start with, I think, all right, yeah, don't get too carried away. Well done. Okay then, so that was the first one. If you didn't like that one, what do you call a fake noodle? An impasta. An impasta. Oh dear. I only know 25 letters of the alphabet. I don't know why. Thank you. Yeah, all right, stop it. Why can't a leopard hide? Because he's always spotted. Yes, he got it. He had to think about that for a moment now, didn't he? I think you've heard the next one bit before. I think we've used it before, actually. Did you hear about the guy who invented the knock-knock joke? He won the Nobel Prize. Yes. I know. Nearly there. The suffering's nearly over with now, don't we? Suffering's nearly done with. I'll give you two more. What do you call a belt made of watches? A waste of time. A waste of time. We'll keep that. We'll have that one. Yes, we'll have that one. And finally, do you want a box for your leftovers? No, but I'll wrestle you for them. No. All right then. So what do you call a hot dog on wheels? Fast food. Get out. Get out. Ooh. See. Told you I'd leave you laughing. Yeah, so anyway, listen, until next Monday night, please take care of yourself and thanks for your support. And remember to come along Wednesday. It's going to be a great night in miniature. I can't wait. Looking forward to it then. All the best. Take care. Good night.